Boy, weedy stuff. Let's bring in Gina Loudon. She's basically a great conservative commentator. Gina, when you saw these 4 GOP senators step up, and we also have liberal commentator Wendy Osefo, too. Gina, wow, turmoil in D.C. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it looks like the swamp is definitely not completely drained yet. I think that here's the real problem. What it really comes down to, Liz, is that many of these senators have been elected on the promise to lobbyists that they will get their little piece of the pie in this bill, right? Or maybe they're raising money now for their re-elections, and that's what they're looking at. And so the deals have been cut behind the scenes. That's the reason they don't want a repeal in any form. They want the replace because they want to make sure that those who are scratching their backs for their re-elections or for their former elections are getting their piece of the pie. And so that's what we're really seeing here, but no one's going to talk about that.
So essentially, Wendy, is Wendy here with us?
I'm here.
Wendy, so essentially these 4 GOP senators, we had Bill Cassidy, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and Ron Johnson. They stepped up to the microphone. They're saying skinny repeal is not good enough to replace Obamacare. They don't even want it to get to House conference. Have it as a vehicle where the House does what it wants and then it gets to the president's desk. They're saying insurance rates will continue to go up and people will continue to get hurt if the skinny repeal gets passed that way. They're opposed to it. What did you make of what you just heard?
My question is, why all this posturing? If you do not like the bill, then just vote no. There's no reason for us to say if this, then this. If they do not like the bill, which a lot of Americans are saying that they do not like it, then just simply vote no. And then my question will be, what happens if conference fails and then the House goes on to pass the bill? What happens then? I just think that they need to go ahead and stake their stick in the stand and say, this is how I feel about this bill, and I'm not going to vote for it. And it doesn't matter, if you move the needle left or right anyway. And that's my frustration is if they do not feel this bill will help Americans, then they just need to say that and leave it there, and then we go from there.
Wendy makes an important point, Gina, about just making a stand here. What these GOP senators are saying is that it essentially leaves in place the essence of Obamacare. And that means that would be really bad and Obamacare is collapsing anyway. Why should we own it? And Lindsey Graham said, let it collapse. He'd rather it collapse. Go ahead.
Well, I think conservatives win if Obamacare does collapse, and I think that conservatives win if there's a strict repeal of Obamacare. I think where Republicans, separating them off from conservatives for a moment, lose is if they have to go into the 2018 elections having done nothing after they've had all of this time to do something. So I think the panic and the posturing that Wendy alluded to, I think that's what we're seeing right there. So yes, for the GOP to get the kind of election results for the establishment especially that they would like in 18, they absolutely need to do something, but they don't know what to do because most of America just wants Obamacare done, repealed, and they don't care about all the little tit for tat going on inside of Washington,
D.C. They don't care about the weeds.
Their premiums
Gina,
fixed.
you just made such an important point. They don't care about the weeds. They don't care about the process. They want results. We're going to have more after the break. An historic moment just now happening. More after the break. Debate just descended into disarray and chaos. Let's bring back Gina Loudon and Wendy Osefo. Gina, you also helped out with the Trump campaign. We have just now heard from 4 top GOP senators, Senators McCain, Graham, Lindsey Graham, Ron Johnson, and Bill Cassidy. They're threatening to withhold their votes for skinny repeal. They don't like skinny repeal. They say it doesn't do enough to basically save the collapse that is Obamacare. If this thing gets to conference, they may vote against it. Or if even it gets out of conference, now the Freedom Caucus, they are saying, Mr. Meadows over the Freedom Caucus in the House saying it's dead on arrival, Gina.
I think that you want to ask yourself why the people that were elected by the different states, why they don't trust their own people to handle Obamacare. Why don't they? I'm sorry, their health care. Why don't they trust the people in their states, the people who elected them, to figure out what they want to replace Obamacare? Right. This is why so many have advocated for so long the best repeal we can possibly get, because that gives the power back to the states, puts it in the hands of the people. I know it's not where the politicians like it, but America has spoken pretty clearly that America would like to control its own health care.
Wendy, here's what skinny repeal would do. It basically still expand Medicaid strip out the regulations and the tax credits, those stay. It would also strip out the individual and the employer mandate. And these 4 top Republican senators say, we don't like skinny repeal. It's still going to cause insurance premiums to skyrocket and hurt families. What do you think?
I think the mandates are so important, and I think that we have to do what's best for Americans. I know Gina earlier was talking about who wins and who loses, and she talked a little bit about the conservatives and the Republicans, but quite frankly, who is losing here is Americans. We need good health care, and it doesn't matter if the Republicans are able to come up with a good health care plan or if the Dems are able to do it. I would recommend we do this in a bipartisan manner. However, Americans need good health care, a health care that ensures that you will be able to stay on, and it doesn't matter how old you are. It has good maternity care for women. Like, that's what we need. And quite frankly, again, going back to this posturing, we do not need that. If you do not agree with the bill, then say why you don't agree with it. Let's work together in a bipartisan manner, and let's put forth a bill that helps the American people.
Yeah, I think, Wendy, you make an important point. Gina, the senators do want to work in a bipartisan way. The Democrats have not stepped up. They don't even acknowledge that Obamacare is collapsing. You know, Gina, this is really about a battle for the soul of the Republican Party right now over an issue that affects so many Americans. There's no really selling of insurance across state lines, even though Obamacare allowed for that. There's no tort reform in this bill. Again, a battle over the soul of the GOP right now underway in the Senate, Gina.
Those are some important measures that you point to, Liz, and that's why this has become so convoluted. You know, the Democrats have had multiple chances to come to the table, and they have refused, and the Republicans need to not let them forget that. But we also need to remember that healthcare is not something that is in our Constitution. It's really not in the purview of the federal government to intervene in the private healthcare of people. Okay. And I think if we had started from that premise, rather than letting Obamacare dictate that we need to somehow socialize our medicine, I think we would be in a better place to begin with.
Gina, the Republicans have had 7 years. Okay. Let's keep that in mind. 7 years.
Gina, Wendy,
I agree with you on that.
You both agree there. Good stuff. Thank you, guys. You've been terrific. Thanks for coming on the show.